me loud and clear that before this video is for anyone else, it is most importantly, it's for me. This video is for me. Do you ever feel like you're more sensitive or anxious than other people? Or find yourself thinking, why can't I just let this thought go? Why do I seem to spiral over things that everyone else seems to brush off? I used to feel the same way. Turns out it was OCD. Since it is OCD Awareness Month, I want to share what I wish I knew earlier, which is that OCD isn't always obvious or visible. Sometimes OCD can feel like having your brain stuck on the worst case scenario. You might find yourself thinking, oh, this headache is a brain tumor, or I'm a terrible person. Sometimes it looks like constantly needing certainty and reassurance and analyzing your decisions over and over and over and over again. Maybe you ruminate on thoughts like, do I really love him? Or am I happy at this job? Finding a therapist who specializes in OCD helped me understand all of that, and most importantly, get my life back. And that is why I want to tell you about NoCD. NoCD is the world's leading provider of specialized treatment for OCD. They offer virtual therapy with licensed therapists who specialize in OCD, so they know all the different ways that it can show up and what really works to treat it. NoCD is covered by insurance for over 155 million Americans, and they provide support between sessions, so you're never stuck navigating OCD on your own. And take it from me, finally working with a therapist who truly understands what you are actually going through can change everything. If you think you might be struggling with OCD, visit nocd.com to book a free 15-minute call and learn how they can help. That's nocd.com. Thank you so much, NoCD. July 15th, 2016. Pop culture changed forever. If I ever, and before we knew it, Will, Dustin, Lucas, Mike, and 11 all found a way into our hearts. And Steve! Hi, Clemmy! It is true, all of the actors were in fact only 12 years old when they were cast, and they are now 35 years old. The success of Stranger Things has been absolutely explosive, and it's Netflix's third most watched English language show of all time. Now, this Thanksgiving, we are getting the last and final season, season 5. And now some of you, not all of you, are employed. I do not have time to rewatch all of Stranger Things before the new season. How the hell are you supposed to remember what happened back in 2016 when you first watched season 1? Now, in the eyes of my grandmother, I am unemployed. And I do in fact have time to rewatch all of Stranger Things before the new season. So much so that every single Tuesday night leading up to season 5, I host Stranger Things rewatch parties, and I made a set calendar as to what nights we are watching what episodes. And you know what? That's called community building. I have quite a turnout, okay? I love Stranger Things. I don't love a lot of IPs, and I don't love a lot of TV shows. Will! But when I do like something, I'm obsessed. And so now I will do my absolute best to catch you up to speed on all the lore of Stranger Things, season by season, to the weeks leading up to the final season premiere of Stranger Things. I'm talking behind the scenes lore, cast lore, actual show lore, as well as Broadway show prequel lore. Because I did in fact see it on Broadway 7 times. Because when I like something, I don't like something a little bit, I get obsessed. Highly recommend that everybody go see it if you have the opportunity to. The actors, the production, it is just one of the best things I've ever seen on stage. I take new friends to go see it every single time they come visit me in New York City. But I do know that not everyone will have the chance to see it, especially because it's only running in the West End in London and also Broadway in New York City. It is canon. The Duffer Brothers were part of the production for it, and Netflix has confirmed that it will be important for season 5 and it will have some Easter eggs. So now let's do a quick little rundown on Stranger Things, The First Shadow, right before we dive into season 1. It's 1959 in Hawkins, Indiana, not a real town, but it's very fucking real to me. Thank you very much. We're seeing characters like Joyce Maldonado, Will, Jim Hopper, Bob Newby, Lonnie Byers, Mike, Lucas, Dustin's parents, all in high school. So the story follows a new kid joining the school named Henry Creel, who came all the way from Nevada, which is important because rumor has it that he apparently blinded a kid at his last school there. Apparently, he also went missing for 12 hours while in Nevada, next to a lab where they were doing some very important and top secret experiments, where he got some injuries, and then he was never mentally the same since. The show starts off with showing us what is called the Philadelphia experiment. It's a legendary and alleged 1943 U.S. Navy experiment to make the destroyer escort USS Eldridge invisible to radar. According to the myth, the experiment went catastrophically wrong, causing the ship to teleport to Norfolk, Virginia, and causing severe harm and mental harm to its crew. While the Navy denies the event ever occurred and records show the USS Eldridge was elsewhere, the story became a popular tale of conspiracy conspiracy and the supernatural, leading to books, films, and a continued fascination with the legend. Now, this is something that Stranger Things toys with often, is using real-life events and fictionalizing it and sci-fiing it up. The Daily Beast reports that Stranger Things was originally titled Montauk and was inspired by the conspiracy theory that the US government conducted testing to improve mind control resources, as well as experiments involving time and interdimensional travel. Matt Duffer explains what we liked about this conspiracy was that there was a lot of flexibility of what could happen there. There were talks about time travel monsters being unleashed and experiments on people who develop psychic abilities. So Dr. Brenner, yes, that fucking Dr. Brenner, his father is actually the captain of this ship and was the only person to survive. He came back but was essentially catatonic and came back with a completely different blood type. And because of this, Dr. Brenner basically dedicated his life to figuring out what happened to his father. So we get a look into Henry Creel's life, how obsessed he is with this radio that he's always holding, uses the static to enter Dimension X, and essentially help him with his telekinetic powers. Henry goes to his first day of school and he's bullied because he's a freak. And of course, people hear the rumor about him blinding a kid, but the one person who is kind to him and that he connects to is Patty, daughter of the principal and sister to Bob fucking Newby. Yes. And Patty Newby's like, damn, I don't know where my mom is. And Henry's like, well, I can see shit, but most of the time I just have nightmares. So she's like, okay, well, help me find my mom then, duh. Henry attempts to help Patty with finding her mom, but these good dreams and good visions always end up turning into bad dreams and bad visions, in which he accidentally dreams that he hurts Patty or that Patty is a monster. We eventually see Henry kill Claudia, Dustin's mom's cat, by using his special powers, and eventually many animals end up getting maimed and killed, and Joyce, Hopper, and Bob basically team up and are on this side quest to figure out who is doing this so that they can get a reward. Now, Patty wants to believe that Henry is actually a good person and that his nightmares and this terror inside of him is not actually him, but something that is attached to him that he does not necessarily have control over. And Patty's like, wait, oh my god, I can change you. Not fast enough, because he does end up blinding her and Bob Newby's dad, the principal, in which in the hospital, after getting blinded by Henry, he keeps saying he's fighting him, protect the boy, save the boy, but no one understands what this means. After Henry Creel's mom, Virginia, is absolutely fed up with all this bullshit. He also like terrorizes her all the time, like makes her see spiders. She's like, you know what, there's this really nice fucking doctor who's gonna help you. And the doctor is in fact Dr. Brenner, which the actor that is playing Dr. Brenner on Broadway is going to be in season 5, and he looks just like Dr. Brenner, and he's not even playing a young Dr. Brenner, which is insane because that is a spitting image of Dr. Brenner anyway. Now, initially, Dr. Brenner and Henry do not get along. Henry is very combative, but Brenner starts calling himself Papa, and encourages Henry to use his anger and his powers to help scientists learn more about him, which he then introduces Henry to Dr. Brenner's father, and his father speaks for the first time in many years, but it's not actually him. He's getting possessed, and this old man in a wheelchair is like, I know you. And then Henry summons a Demogorgon, and a gate opens, and Dr. Brenner's father dies. So Dr. Brenner rigorously trains Henry by having him kill animals, even a prisoner on death row, because it makes him stronger and he's absorbing their energy. They run all these tests on Henry just for him to escape, but then he sees a vision that his own mother Virginia had said that he should be locked up and the key thrown away. Which is when we then see the sequence that we will then further see in season 4, where Henry kills his mother and little sister at the dinner table. And Victor Creel, Henry's father, is arrested for all of this. Now, Joyce, Hopper, and Bob are like, okay, case closed. It's been Victor Creel this whole time. Victor Creel is the animal killer and blinded Principal Newby. He will be dealt with. Good thing he's in prison now. But then Henry has a moment in private with Joyce where he's like, you'll one day learn that you'll do anything to protect the ones that you love. And Joyce is like, what the fuck? And yes, anyway, for all of you asking, yes, there's so much tension between Joyce and Hopper in high school. Duh, obviously. Bob is obviously hopelessly in love with Joyce, but it's not reciprocated. And Joyce and Hopper briefly fantasize about running away to Mexico together. But then Hopper ends up getting shipped off to the army because of his father, but Joyce stays back in Hawkins and still is with Lonnie. Henry tries to escape with Patty, but Dr. Brenner comes just in time and encourages Henry to kill Patty because she is his weakness, and this would basically eliminate his weakness for him. In the struggle, Mind Flayer takes over, causing Patty to have a big fall and hit her head, knocks her unconscious, and we're like, oh my fucking god, she's dead. Spoiler alert, she's not dead. The entire video is one big massive spoiler. I hope I made that abundantly clear. A few years later, Henry is at the lab with Dr. Brenner, where they tell him that the blood transfusions have worked using Henry's blood, presumably to the pregnant women who were in the MK Ultra experiments, and he can now meet his siblings. And we watch him walk off with 11, and then the play ends. You leave this play basically having so much sympathy for Henry Krill because we see his origin story, and you can see that there is good to him. It's like you're watching a parasite basically take over his entire being, and he loses all control over it. I don't think he started inherently evil. And the actors do a beautiful job. Louis McCartney wrote the brightest star to have ever existed. Every single time that I go to stage door and I see you there, I just want to say, you should be so proud of yourself, but I never say that and I just walk away. I hope the entire cast gets everything that they ever want in life. Oh my god. Let's get moving, people! Fast forward November 6, 1983. 24 years after the Stranger Things First Shadow starts, we watch Dustin, Lucas, Mike, Will, all sitting in Mike's basement playing D&D, like a bunch of fucking nerds. If you don't know, D&D Dungeons & Dragons, it's a fantasy tabletop role-playing game where players collaborate to tell a story. Real nerd shit. Anyway, so me and my friends might be starting a D&D campaign sometime soon. They're all fighting the Demogorgon in this D&D game, and Will has to make a choice whether to cast a protective spell or a fireball. He chooses fireball, but the dice rolls off the table, and he ultimately admits to Mike that the Demogorgon got him because he rolled a 7, and he needed at least a 13 or higher to successfully do the fireball. The lights flicker, ooh, and all the boys start riding their bikes home. However, all of the bikes separate, Will going into an area that says restricted area like a fucking dumbass, where it reads Hawkins National Laboratory, US government property. Gee, I hope something bad doesn't fucking happen. Will's light on his bicycle flickers, he gets distracted, and oh shit, what is that in the middle of the road? It's Vecna. This is what I personally believe is the first appearance of Vecna. The arm is giving Vecna, not Demogorgon. I'm standing by it. Will leaves his bike and runs his ass home, with his dog greeting him. Oh no, I hope that the dog doesn't die. Worse! We never ever get to see Chester the dog past season 1 because David Harbour called Chester the dog one of the worst actors he'd ever worked with and confessed he was the one to suggest the Byers family pet exit the series. I hated that fucking dog. I hated that fucking dog so bad. Take after take, it would wander off or do something. I walked up to the Duffer Brothers and I was like, you know, the Byers should probably have them put that dog to sleep next season. So yeah, if you wanted another reason to be upset with David Harbour, there you go. Okay. Well, Will is like, okay, I know how to protect myself. I'm going to go to the shed and get the gun. And to all my non-American viewers right now, no, that isn't normal to me either. Before Will even gets to shoot said gun, the lights flicker and uh-oh, where's Will? Will's in the upside down now. We don't know where Will is. Next morning, Winona Ryder, hello, looking as beautiful as ever, hello, can't find her son. Fun fact, Winona Ryder did not have to audition for the role as Joyce, but you may know her as her younger self, where she played Lydia Dietz in Beetlejuice. She literally hasn't aged. It's incredible. And before you say, oh, she's a bad mom, why doesn't she know where her son is? Her and her other son, Jonathan, had to be working all night because money is tight and Lonnie is a deadbeat father. Now cut to Nancy, Mike's sister, and Barb. Barb is teasing Nancy about Nancy's love interest, Steve the Hair Harrington, who with his fuck-ass season 1 haircut is seen making out with Nancy in the bathroom. Now I need to know, boys' bathroom or girls' bathroom? Because boys' bathroom, the piss has a very specific smell. So I just need to know. We're also introduced to Hopper, who is a drunk, pill-popping hot cop with a dad bod. But ACAB does 100% include Jim Hopper. Fun fact, Hopper's uniform is a reference to Jaws Police Chief Brody's uniform, most notably with a triangle patch. So Joyce goes and reports her son immediately missing to Hopper, but Hopper is late for work, not taking it seriously, and he's like, okay, but is your son gay? He ultimately tells her, don't worry about it because 99% of the time, a missing kid is with a parent or relative. And Hawkins is so safe that within his 4 years of working there, there's basically no crime that is happening. Shit sucks because this is about to be the most crime-ridden town in America because literally the depths of hell open up in the middle of Hawkins. Back at the lab, we see scientists exploring this open gate, which ultimately just looks like endometriosis. Whenever I see any of the gates in Stranger Things, I'm like, that is literally a spitting image of endometriosis. And when scientists are like, well, what about the girl, sir? Dr. Brenner, with his fuck-ass transatlantic accent, is like, she can't have gone far. The girl being 11. I don't have a lot of maternal feelings in general. I don't know if I have it in me. I have strong maternal feelings towards 11. We're introduced to 11, who's in a hospital gown in the middle of the woods. Dirty,
and she sneaks into Benny's diner and she's eating the fries because girl is hungry, obviously. Millie Bobby Brown, being British, actually did her entire audition and all of the interviews on screen on Skype with an American accent, and she learned how to do her American accent because of Hannah Montana. Fun fact, Natalia Dyer, Nancy in Stranger Things, her first role was in the Hannah Montana movie. Okay. Keep up, people! So Benny, who owns this diner, cooks up a little burger for 11, and he's like, oh my god, fuck. Now I have to report this kid to social services because she's clearly, like, run away from home. Someone's been abusing her. And then she sees that she has an 11 tattooed on her wrist, which has sparked a lot of controversy because people start to think that it was appropriate to get 11 tattooed on their wrist when season 1 came out. Not only were Jewish concentration camp prisoners during the Holocaust forced to get numbers tattooed on them for identification, this show is trying to make a direct correlation that the children are seen as non-humans and essentially like cattle to Dr. Brenner, getting branded, stripped of their identity. Why would you get a tattoo to represent basically someone who has been dehumanized any which way you look at it? I have no fucking idea. I have an 11 tattoo up higher along my arm. That's because I have OCD and I thought that the number 11 was a magical number and it's purely a personal issue. Anyway, we see 11 stop a fan with her mind because it was annoying her, and we're like, oh, okay, cool, so this girl does have powers. Now, during the search for Will, we see a lot of Winona Ryder yelling, Will! And we also find out that Hopper finds Will's missing bike. When Joyce tries to call Lonnie and be like, hey, do you have her fucking son? We also find out that the government listens into all of our conversations. Big Brother is always watching. Mike and Nancy are pissed that there's a curfew now from their parents, with Nancy being like, Barb and I were supposed to study tonight, which is a lie. Liar! You were trying to go off with Steve. And I would have done the exact same thing as you. Everyone ends up fighting and leaving the dinner table with an underrated line from Ted Wheeler where he goes, what I do. While back at Benny's diner, he gives 11 a carton of strawberry ice cream to eat out of, which I'm positively certain that he was going to serve back to customers. Definitely a safety and health code violation. Benny answers the door because social services is there to collect 11, but then social services kills him. I don't think social services is supposed to do that, but she does. And with a silencer at that. I know what a silencer is because of Luigi Mangione. 11 knows what's up. She knows that these are the scientists now looking for her. And before Papa gets to 11, she ends up killing his men with her mind, and she escapes Dr. Brenner again. Every single time that she kills somebody in the show, I'm like, oh my god, I actually forget that 11 kills a lot of people. Steve sneaks into Nancy's room through the window to try and help study, in which she's like, okay, for every question that we get right or wrong, we strip. Hello. And suddenly, I'm the photo of Jimmy Neutron as a gerbil. Anyway, so no studying gets done. Shocker. This scene is important later on in season 4 because we find out that the Upside Down is essentially stuck on this day. It stops updating for some reason. We find this out because Nancy goes back to her bedroom within the Upside Down. She finds those flashcards that they were studying with that night. Now, why exactly is the Upside Down stuck on this day? We don't know yet. Joyce gets a phone call in which she swears she hears Will breathing. And she's like, Will, I hear you, my boy. And then we hear Demogorgon sounds. And then the phone sparks and shocks Joyce, essentially breaking the phone. Now, Lucas, Mike, and Dustin decide to take matters into their own hands. And they're like, okay, we're a bunch of 12-year-olds. We're going to probably do a better job than the police. And spoiler alert, they do. But during their search for Will, they end up finding 11 in the pouring rain in the woods. I have to mention this. Byler shippers, this one's for you. Byler, if you don't know, is Will Byers, Mike Wheeler, Byler shippers. Byler shippers are convinced that the only reason that Mike really cares about 11 is because she looks like Will with her head shaved. Which, funny enough, the Duffer Brothers were actually meant to make 11 be a boy, and Hopper's daughter was going to be Mike's love interest. But I'm going to wait to give any of my Byler opinions until season 5. But just note, that is a big theory. The boys end up sneaking 11 into Mike's basement, in which they realize she doesn't understand social cues, and she also barely speaks. She speaks in like broken English. And they theorize that she must be a patient at Penhurst Asylum. They make a plan to smuggle Elle in Mike's basement overnight, and they will deal with her in the morning with Mike's mom. Jonathan and Hopper don't believe Joyce when she's like, I heard him through the phone. And they're like, okay, she's a senile woman. Obviously, she did not hear Will through the phone, because nobody fucking believes women. Mike ends up sneaking some Eggos to Elle, which starts Elle's obsession with Eggo waffles, which, by the way, why aren't there any vegan Eggo waffles? Hello. I've been eating whole wheat waffles every single week at Stranger Things night. And Elle tells Mike he cannot go and try and get her help with his mom because the bad men will find them, kill Mike, and kill her. Jonathan ends up putting missing have you seen me posters all around the school and around town. And Nancy is the only nice person to him while Steve and his friends are absolute dicks to him. And they're like, how much you want to bet that he killed him? Which I don't know if this happened at your guys' schools, but people did not get bullied for having dead parents or missing siblings. That just like was not a thing. That was like fully off limits. You had fugly shoes, okay, fine. You were gonna get made fun of. But dead or missing family members, that is absolutely not. Were the 80s just like that? Are people getting made fun of for missing or dead family members? Like, I genuinely need to know. But Jonathan gets flashbacks of playing the song Should I Stay or Should I Go by The Clash to Will, and Will loving that song, specifically during a moment where Joyce and Lonnie are fighting. So while no one is home, Joyce is out trying to buy a new phone. The scientists and Dr. Brenner come to the buyer's house and they're like testing everything with their like little machines, because obviously the endometriosis within their lab and the endometriosis that is suddenly spreading at the buyer's home is connected. And Will's disappearance is related to all of this. Eleven sees a photo of Will in Mike's bedroom and immediately she's like, I know this kid somehow? How does she know him? We're still unsure as a fandom. Hopper and the police find Benny propped up in the diner with a gun in his hand, which his death is then ruled as self-inflicted because the scientists and the government can state whatever the fuck they want. Spoiler alert, Benny did not kill himself. So Nancy and Barb sneak out to go to Steve's little house party that he's having that night because his parents are away, in which Barb is like, this is so stupid, Nancy. Like, he just wants to get in your pants. Which, like, okay, damn, Barb, okay, damn. Let Steve Harrington get in my pants. My God. I always get so annoyed when Barb comes on the screen scolding Nancy about this, because like, let Nancy get some. Oh my God. Be excited for your friend. I say this, but in high school, I was 100% Barb. When boys had any interest in any of my girlfriends, I'm like, get away from her. Get a fucking job, you sick fuck. I was Barb, 110%. So I am really, really into gun control and gun regulation. With that being said, I think that men should be forced to get a psychological screening before they purchase a camera. Not all men should be allowed to own a camera, damn! The amount of male photographers who have skeeved me the fuck out in my short 26 years of life, especially before I turned 18. Why are you 30 years old and telling 16-year-old me that I am your muse and you want to get in my pants? And men that should not own a camera include Jonathan Byers. I'm sorry. Some of you are about to be really mad at me, and I really don't care. I'm gonna die on this hill. So he's playing Mr. Detective because he's looking for his brother. Okay, good job. And he starts taking photos of the people partying in Steve's fucking yard. And they don't know. It's dark, they don't know. Granted, yes, the entire hangout is extremely cringy. They're like shotgunning beers. Watching Joe carry shotgun a beer gives me the absolute ick. So I close my eyes, and then I look again, and then it's okay. One time, a guy shotgunned a beer and asked me to record it for him. When I tell you, I have never been drier in my whole entire life. So Barb, obviously being a dweeb, cuts herself while trying to shotgun a beer. And Jonathan's just there, still like snapping and taking photos of them. Like a creep, Joyce ends up getting another phone call where she can hear Will being like, Mom? And she's like, Will! And the same thing happens where the phone fully surges out and the phone breaks. All the lights in the house start to flicker, and Should I Say or Should I Go starts playing on the radio. Nancy, who got pushed into the pool, all soaking wet, wants to go upstairs and get changed in Steve's room. And Barb is like, no, Nancy, this isn't you. This isn't you, girl. Oh my God, Barb, it's me now, Barb. This is me now. And this is Steve Harrington. Let me get some damn, oh my God. But Nancy can make your own decisions, oh my God. So Nancy is literally at the window getting changed. And Jonathan is still snapping photos of literally her naked back, and then gets all sad and disappointed and lowers his camera as he starts to see Nancy and Steve start to hook up. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding me? I will not forget that. I'm sorry. I just cannot forget it. But not only that, he's like, oh no, poor loser Barb, sitting all alone, dangling her feet into the pool. Instead of being like, hey Barb, you good? Do you need a ride home or anything like that? He's just taking pictures of her. But Barb's hand is still actively bleeding. Like, I don't know, girl. Go to urgent care. It's been a while since it's been bleeding. Put some pressure on it. Blood drips into the pool, and she is pulled down into the upside down. Nancy and Steve are getting it on while Barb is actively fighting for her life. Yes, it's very unfortunate. Do you see what happens when you don't approve of your friends getting dicked down? That could have happened to me when I was in high school. I could have gotten killed by the Demogorgon because of my actions. And thank God I wasn't. But Barb lived a much longer life than she was supposed to because she was actually supposed to die in the pilot, fun fact. In everyone else's eyes, Joyce is going into full psychosis because she believes that Will is trying to communicate to her through the lights. Hello, believe women. The cops, ACAB, go to Hawkins' lab because they're like, we need to find footage because we believe a missing kid may have stumbled upon here. The lab eventually shows the cops, ACAB, the footage. However, it's fake because the night that Will went missing, it was pouring rain. And in the footage, there is no rain at all. So clearly, they are hiding something. Eleven gets flashbacks of her time while in the lab, like crushing things with her mind like a Coca-Cola can. Eventually, this turns into Dr. Brenner trying to encourage her to harm animals, like cats, which she refuses to, which is similar to Henry Creel's experience within the play. However, she does end up killing some nurses. Joyce goes to the store and buys boxes and boxes and boxes of Christmas lights to try and communicate to Will through the Christmas lights and painting the alphabet on her wall. And Will communicating to his mother via Christmas lights is similar to Poltergeist, where the youngest daughter is sucked into the portal and communicates with her family via the TV. Nancy goes to school the next day and she realizes that Barb never came to school. She makes eye contact with Jonathan, who we then see go into the dark room, which I always accidentally call the red room, which I only know of because of 50 Shades of Grey. And a girl catches him developing photos of Nancy undressing. The cops, ACAB, do their job for once and go to the library and decide to do some more research on the Hawkins lab, in which they find out the lab and Dr. Brenner and their association to MK-Ultra, which was a top secret and illegal CIA program that conducted mind control research and chemical interrogation experiments on human subjects from 1953 to 1973. They used drugs like LSD, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, and other psychological torture techniques, and they see that a woman, Terry Ives, spoiler alert, which is Eleven's mom, is suing the lab because she believes that Dr. Brenner took her daughter. So how does this all connect to Will? Perhaps he was at the wrong place at the wrong time, and maybe saw something that he shouldn't have, and the government had to control the situation. So Jonathan and all of his friends confront Jonathan in the parking lot. Do I think that in general, Jonathan and all of his friends are a bunch of jackasses and jerks for their lack of care towards Barb, bullying Jonathan for his missing brother? Absolutely. Do I think it's valid and justified to be angry that Jonathan was taking photos of your friend group in the woods and then it was taking photos of your girlfriend naked? Yes! Disagree with me all you want. Disagree with the wall. They hated Jesus because he spoke the truth. So Steve does in fact break Jonathan's camera, dropping it in from 2 different angles, but alas, Nancy ends up finding out that Barb's car is parked exactly where she left it, meaning that she never got back to her car. And while in Steve's backyard, she sees a creature, something faceless. Joy starts communicating with the lights because she is in fact a genius, in which he confirms he is alive, but his ass is not safe. Meanwhile, while Joyce is trying to communicate to Will through the lights, Eleven promises the boys that she can take them to Will because she knows where he is, and she leads them to the buyer's house. And they're mad at her because they're like, liar, you have no idea where Will is. Will isn't here. Will is missing. But she did, because Will was there, just in the upside down. And when Joyce asks, where the hell is Will? He says, right here. And when she asks what to do, he spells out, run. At the same time that a Demogorgon is trying to rip through the wall, the cops get notified that they found Will's body in the quarry with all the boys at 11 watching. I fucking hate it when they start yelling at her. Like, I understand they're little kids and they're frustrated and they don't know how to regulate their emotions. But like, imagine being angry with her. I could never yell at her a day in my life. So the cops come over to tell Joyce, like, hey, your son's dead. And she's like, that's not true. I talked to him through the Christmas lights, which originally Joyce was supposed to communicate to Will using fridge magnets. Anyway, believe women. Hopper tries to relate with Joyce because he himself lost his own daughter who ended up dying from cancer, and he can understand the denial that she is going through. So Eleven's nose starts bleeding because that's what happens when she uses her powers, and she summons Will through the radio saying, should I say or should I go? Like, fuck you, Mike, for yelling at me. Here's your stupid friend singing. I wasn't lying, okay? At the morgue the next day, it is revealed that someone from the state ended up doing Will's autopsy and not the regular Gary, who always does the autopsies. And Joyce sees Will's body and she immediately knows, that's not my son. Even though they showed her his weird birthmark that he has, she's like, no, that's literally not my son. I don't know what that thing is, but that is not my son. Steve's a dick and annoyed with Nancy that Nancy is involving the police and tells her to not tell them that there was any beer involved so that they would not get in trouble with his dad. Because that's the most important thing when a girl is missing, right? Yeah, duh. And the cops suggest that maybe Barb was upset and jealous because Nancy went up to Steve's room. Let's make one thing very, very abundantly clear. Barb was not jealous of Nancy. If anything, Barb was jealous of Steve. Happy we got that out of the way. So now, because of this all, Nancy has to in fact admit to her mom that she did sleep with Steve. Karen Wheeler is all like, you lied to the cops. Like, oh my god, Karen, a cab, my god. Everybody is just so damn mad that she slept with Steve. Like, let my girl live. But that's when Jonathan's freak nasty photos did in fact come in handy, because Nancy starts rearranging all the ripped up photos together, and she sees in the photo of Barb a little bit of this creature that she believes she saw in Steve's woods. They want to sneak Elle into the school so that she can communicate to Will through the radio there. And they're like, okay, time to make our bald friend unbald. So they put her in her iconic blonde wig and pink dress that was Nancy's. And this is directly mirroring the movie E.T. And at Will's memorial assembly, all the boys are bullying the boys again because they're like, your friend is dead. Crazy work. Elle is like, that will not happen to my friends. And she makes the main bully Troy pee himself. And he apparently is supposed to make an appearance in season 5, which I can't wait, and I hope that she makes him pee again. So while Elle is communicating to Will through the radio, Joyce can actually see through the endometriosis wall. It's more like a uterine lining wall in their living room. And Will says, it's like home, but it's so dark and cold and empty. And Joy starts going at the uterine lining with her axe, only to reveal drywall and insulation. Nancy and Jonathan team up and they start developing some more photos, and it kind of looks like the Demogorgon in fact has a six-pack. So it's confirmed the Demogorgon is sexy. Hopper sneaks back into the morgue to take a closer look at Will's body, and when he goes to cut him open, he realizes, oh my god, this is a fake, because it's literally a dummy that is stuffed with cotton. Like, they literally Build-A-Beared his ass. But how did the lab know about this weird mole that Will had? And how did they recreate it? You know what I mean? Like, maybe in 2025 it would be believable that the government would know about all your weird little moles that you have on yourself. 1983, what? But finally, the boys start coming around to Elle, and they're like, oh my god, she was always right, we're so sorry. And they name this nether region. It was actually originally supposed to be called the Nether. They call it now the Upside Down. And they rule that Will is trapped within the Upside Down. To understand this alternate dimension, the kids use D&D terms and compare the Veil of Shadows to the Upside Down. There's a place of decay and death. It is right next to you and you don't even see it. Everyone starts coming along to Joyce's side, and they're like, oh my god, wait, you're finally right. We finally believe women. And Hopper even breaks into the lab, going into the Upside Down on a search to find Will. But after doing so, he ends up waking up in his trailer, confused. Fun fact, the crew did buy this trailer for $1 whole, and finds out that the government drugged him, took him back to his place, and bugged his place with a wire to try and listen in to see his conversations afterwards. And he eventually finds this wire and destroys it. Why would they just let him be a free man? Why didn't they just like kill him or leave him in the Upside Down? I don't know. Mr. Clark, who I believe there should be more fan cams of,
Hungry one, open up a package of my bologna.
Confirmed the boys' idea that there could be an Upside Down. He shows the example of an acrobat and a flea, where we as people can't go into the other side of a tightrope, but something like a flea perhaps could. The acrobat could go to the other side, but would need a massive amount of energy. More than humans are currently capable of creating and then create a gate, but it is just a theory. Dustin also points out that none of their compasses are working correctly, pointing to true north, because to change the direction of a compass, you can use a magnet, and the gate has so much power that it's affecting the compasses, and they believe that if they follow the compasses north, they can be led to the gate that way. Steve comes back and tries to apologize to Nancy and win Nancy over again. And Nancy's like, oh, I don't know, I'm just like so busy. I don't know if I can go out with you tonight. And the being so busy was actually going out with Jonathan and shooting guns with him. Which, one thing about Nancy Wheeler is that girl is going to always have a gun. And she's going to be really, really good at it. On the walk to the gate, we can see Eleven really not trying to go there. Probably because it's extremely terrifying to her to go back to where a lot of her trauma was at the lab. She gets flashbacks of when she was put in a sensory deprivation tank, and because of this, she tries to use her powers to trigger the compasses and point them into the wrong direction. Because of this, Lucas and Mike end up getting into a huge fight because Lucas believes that Elle might be at fault for Will being missing and she's letting him die in the Upside Down. And he goes, have you ever thought she might be the monster? Like, okay, Ryan Murphy. Eleven panics and physically throws Lucas off of Mike, hurting him, and has another flashback of Dimension X spying on the KGB, something that becomes very important in future seasons. I think this show does an amazing job at depicting mental health very accurately. Even when it's about a girl affected by MK Ultra, telekinesis, fake monsters, when her trauma is triggered, we get shown moments of PTSD flashbacks and moments of dissociation. And I feel like I love the show so much because of how accurate I think mental health is shown. Even 12-year-old being able to depict what PTSD looks like and how trauma deeply affects her. because ultimately at the end of the day, she is a human being and not a superhero. And they also do such an amazing job of this with characters moving forward, and I think that's why it's like my favorite show. While Nancy and Jonathan are in the woods, they stumble upon an opening to the Upside Down within a tree, in which Nancy sees a Demogorgon feasting on a dead deer, making her the first person to go into the Upside Down, not through the lab. She somehow makes it out alive, ripping through the endometriosis layer, and her and Jonathan are basically bonded together forever because of their shared trauma. Steve tries to go make things right again by sneaking up to Nancy's window, and then, oh no, Steve, this is why you shouldn't peep in Tom, because he sees Jonathan comforting Nancy in her bedroom, because what Steve doesn't know is that she just literally crawled through endometriosis in a tree. He doesn't fucking get it. But Nancy and Jonathan are determined to find this thing again because Joyce talked to Will, and there's a chance that Barb may still be alive and down there. Elle is on the run once again, covered in dirt, like, okay girl, I don't know how you did that so fast. But she ends up going into a grocery store where she steals a whole bunch of boxes of Eggos, calls a man a mouth breather, and then breaks the glass sliding doors, which is like, I'm so proud of her. Like, I feel so maternal towards her. Hopper and Joyce decide to go pay a visit to Eleven's mother, Terry Ives, a victim of the MK Ultra experiments, and who is suing Dr. Brenner, in which they try to get some more information about her daughter Jane, because maybe she could be of some help towards Will's disappearance. Unfortunately, Terry is completely nonverbal, and her sister confirms to them that Terry miscarried within the 3rd trimester. But Terry believes that Jane was in fact born with abilities like telekinesis and telepathy, and that's why Jane was kidnapped, because she was a weapon fighting the commies. But no one believes Terry, not even her own sister, because they believe that Terry is deeply ill. Believe women. Hey, if there's one theme of this show, believe women. While Nancy and Jonathan are out having a great day buying bear traps and propane, they find out that Steve and his friends vandalized a movie sign that now writes All the Right Moves starring Nancy the Slut Wheeler, which a bystander woman was like, wow. Which is crazy work because meanwhile Nancy was climbing through the endometriosis tree. They also spray paint Byers as a perv, which I don't really disagree with. So Nancy slaps the fuck out of Steve. Jonathan and Steve tussle, in which Steve gets beat the fuck up. And Joe Keery and Charlie Heaton actually confirmed that while they were filming the scene, Charlie Heaton accidentally hit Joe Keery in the face, not once but twice. This is the first time that we see Steve get beat up, but do not worry, it will not be our last. In 2021, I was at a Strokes concert where I got to see a very drunk Charlie Heaton sitting on the ground of the lobby, and I wish I gave him a high five for giving us the first Steve Harrington beating, but Jonathan does end up hitting a cop, a cab, and does get arrested. So the bullies end up finding Mike and Dustin, threaten to slit Dustin's neck if Mike does not jump off the cliff into the quarry, and because of the power of friendship, Mike is like, sure, I'll jump off of the cliff, obviously. Dustin being held at knife point is a parallel to Fratelli's kidnapping Chuck in The Goonies. Elle saves Mike's life, the best green screen work I've ever seen in my entire life, and ends up breaking the bully's arm, and then says, she's our friend and she's crazy. Elle passes out from using her powers, and she breaks down from having a flashback, saying that the gate being open is her fault because she made contact with a monster and it scared her so bad that her energy opened the gate. She says, I'm the monster. Like, okay, Ryan Murphy. While Elle is getting cleaned up in Mike's bathroom, Mike tells her that she doesn't need her wig to be pretty. And they almost kiss, which this girl barely understands social cues. Like, she has been in the real world for 2 days. I don't think that this 12-year-old would be bleeding in for a kiss or even know what a kiss is, but sure, let's play pretend for a moment. The government finds out Elle's location, and while on a bicycle chase, she throws a whole van, killing whoever was in it, and all the scientists like get out of their own vans. They're not even checking in on the van that just got flipped. They're like, casualties, what can you do? So the government comes over to Mike's house and searches it entirely because they believe that Mike is harboring a bald girl in the house. And for all the Byler shippers, Mike's dad says, our son with a girl. Jonathan is off the hook with the cops because Hopper knows him, which is in fact how it usually works with the cops. And Jonathan, Nancy, Hopper, and Joyce start working together, guaranteeing that they can protect the kids while they're being hunted down by the government. The kids end up explaining the acrobat flea theory to the adults. They connect all their information together and attempt to contact Will and Barb using Elle. However, she needs help making contact, and they find out that they need a kiddie pool filled with 1,500 pounds of salt to let Elle float and essentially create like a sensory deprivation tank. And Eleven is able to make contact, but she finds out Barb is no longer alive. And this girl who just almost kissed another 12-year-old boy just keeps screaming, gone, gone, gone. I am maternal towards her. However, she does see Will in his Castle Buyers hideout spot, and he is alive, but he tells them they have to hurry. How he survived and Barb didn't, we know partially because he sang his special little song of Should I Stay or Should I Go? The Clash is very good. Yeah, maybe if Barb was more focused on singing a Celine Dion song than trying to police Nancy and what she was doing. Hey, who knows? I'm kidding. But this is something that we're still trying to understand because we barely get to see any glimpses of Will's life within the Upside Down. Right away, Joyce is mother to Elle. Like, she has maternal instincts towards this girl too. And Joyce and Hopper decide to travel to the Upside Down from the lab. Jonathan and Nancy agree that it's way too dangerous for them to be going in there all on their own because they would be like bait for the Demogorgon, and Nancy is very adamant that she wants to kill that thing. But before Joyce and Hopper make their way in, they're caught by the government. Because Hopper and Joyce know so much information about how the government is covering all of this up, how they're covering up their entire mess of the gate being open and children going missing and dying, they convince the government to help them get into the gate, give them the equipment to go in, and Hopper will give them the information of where Elle is located under the condition that they will leave the kids alone, and Hopper and Joyce will never speak of the government's wrongdoings afterwards. They just want to get Will back. And the government is like, okay, sure, we can do that because they're like, their asses are not gonna live. And they go off to find 11 at the location, which is at the school. Nancy and Jonathan set up booby traps all throughout the Byers house, make the famous nail bat, in hopes of getting the Demogorgon, distracting it from Hopper and Joyce, and then killing it while Hopper and Joyce get to work and bust through the endometriosis wall. Hopper gets flashbacks of his own daughter having trouble breathing when she was very sick, and as soon as Nancy and Jonathan cut their hands to draw blood and attract the Demogorgon, whose ass shows up? Steve's. He's yearning, he's pining, trying to make things right with Jonathan, which then he gets pissed seeing that Nancy's hand is covered in blood, assuming that maybe Jonathan did that to her. And then he's like, wait, why does the entire house smell like gasoline? And then Nancy pulls out a gun on him. Funny enough, Steve Harrington was only supposed to be around for one season, but because they were so charmed by Joe Keery, I mean, who wouldn't be, they rewrote the character. The lights start flickering and the Demogorgon literally appears. Steve literally has no idea of anything supernatural happening. Imagine yearning, pining. Meanwhile, there's a Demogorgon in the room with a six-pack trying to kill you. Steve is given the opportunity to leave, but as he sees the lights flickering, he decides to come back in, save the day, hit the Demogorgon with the nail bat. My fucking hero. Mike is like, Elle, everything's gonna go back to normal. You can come home. And Elle's like, are you gonna be my brother? And he's like, ew, what the fuck, no. And then they kiss. Government ends up finding Elle, so Elle ends up killing like a dozen people all at once with her mind queen, completely draining her of her powers though. And because of all the blood from the dead government people, the Demogorgon starts to come after the government. So now there's an endometriosis wall in the school. The Demogorgon goes after Dr. Brenner, which somehow he ends up surviving, like nobody does, but he does. Through the many, many layers of endometriosis within the Upside Down in the library, Will is found, but there is a huge, long vine tentacle thing down his throat, which they have to pull out and perform CPR on him, which are very similar to the tentacles in Xenomorphs and Alien. Elle uses up all of her energy to end up killing the Demogorgon, which, along with the Demogorgon, she says, goodbye, Mike, and she disappears. And they literally turn into asbestos particles, which is the first time that we hear the song when it's called I'd Like to Die by Moby. We will continue to hear the song many more times within the show. We watch Elle die, we watch Will get revived, and we watch flashbacks of Hopper's daughter dying. Like, cool, I'm in such a great mood now. 1 month later, it's Christmas. Woohoo. Kids are back playing D&D, and Nancy and Steve are back together. Cool. And they end up giving Jonathan for Christmas a fucking camera so that he can continue to be a freak. Hello! Will is dubbed as the boy who came back to life. Hopper is seen leaving food and Eggos in a box outside in the woods. Oh my god, who could that be for? Oh my god. And of course, Will goes to the bathroom and throws up a fucking slug and doesn't tell anyone about it. Because why would he? Don't piss me off. This is where Will starts really pissing me off, okay? Will gets some airtime, and he pisses me off. See something, say something. You throw up a slug, say something. Say something to your mother. And then he goes back to eating dinner. Oh yeah, because you have such a big appetite after throwing up a slug. But fine. But fine. And that's where the season ends. And that's season 1. We end off on literally throwing up slug. I hope that you guys like this video because I love making it. If you did, please make sure that you leave it a like. Season 2 video coming very, very soon. Comment your favorite moment from season 1 because I want to talk about it. Like I said, this video is for me. This entire series is for me. Make sure you subscribe if you want to be nasty, and if not, you're disgusting. Also, make sure every bell notifications on so you know every single time I post roast you're gross. If you want to follow me on my other social media, Instagram, Twitter, Spotify, just at Nicole Rafiee. And if you want to follow me on TikTok, it's at Nikki Nasty. I'm gonna go now because it is in fact Stranger Things night, and I do have to go throw up a slug before my guests arrive. Well.